Okay, can somebody hold up a thumb if you can hear me? Thanks, somebody. Okay. And let's test one more time if we can hear Matt. Matt, do another test for me.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Test, test.
Brilliant. Okay. All right, Matt, to set the scene, we've got quite a few people in the auditorium here, and hopefully we can show some of that to you in just a minute. I'm going to share my screen, and then we A4 away. Okay, screen is on, and let's go. All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for our education session. And did you all get in okay this morning? PGA show back to full traffic mode. But it's great to have everyone back, and we're very excited to be here again as well. I am super excited and proud to have a good friend of ours, Matt Barksdale from Pinehurst, join us for our education session, how Pinehurst uses technology and data to create exceptional player experience and optimize efficiency. Can you pull up Matt on the screen there for me, Jeremy? Okay, Matt, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Bodo, good morning. Thanks for having me. Good morning, everyone.
Fantastic. So Matt has worked with our team for a number of years, and yeah, you all know Pinehurst. By show of hands, who of you has played at any of the Pinehurst courses? Okay, quite a few hands going up. By show of hands, who wants to play? Who's got on the bucket list? Everyone's hands up, of course. No surprise. Me too. Matt, thank you so much for your time. Won't you do us the favor of doing an introduction of Pinehurst and what is important to you and what your role is there, Pinehurst as well?
Sure. Yeah, Bodo, thank you. And good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Matt Barksdale. I'm the director of golf at Pinehurst Resort and Country Club. Just a little bit about Pinehurst. We have 9 golf courses, a short course, an 18-hole putting course, 9 dining outlets, 9 retail shops, 4 hotels, a spa, multiple aquatic facilities, and a country club. Our membership consists of about 5,000 members, with about 1,800 of those being golfing members. Say over the past 10 to 15 years, we've made substantial updates to our property, with starting off by redoing Pinehurst number 2, which we consider to be our crown jewel. We've redone Pinehurst number 4, built a short course, added 2 restaurants. Currently, we're in the process of redoing the Carolina, which is our main hotel. And we just broke ground on our 10th golf course, which we're very excited about. And we got even more coming down the pipeline. The USGA announced us as an anchor site a couple of years ago. So we have the 2024, 2029, 2035, 2041, and 2047 US Opens on the horizon. They're also going to be relocating their second headquarters down to our main campus that will house their R&D department, as well as a golf museum, and then the World Golf Hall of Fame. So needless to say, we're extremely excited about what the future holds. And thanks for having me this morning.
Thank you, Matt. So you get to retire in 2047. Make a note.
I hope I can get there.
No, for sure. Okay, let me see if I can find my screen again so we can show you some of the things we want to share. And then, Jeremy, I don't know if and how you can make this work from a screen share point of view. Okay. Okay, you're familiar with Pinehurst, and you have just also unveiled a 2024 US Open logo. Tell us a bit about your mascot, because you did not mention it.
Well, so the mascot, if you will, is the golf lad. So we have the putter boy, which is the resort logo. The golf lad is our championship logo, as well as our member logo. And since our members host the USGA US Opens, it's inevitably the USGA championship logo as well.
Very cool. And you can see the lad here in that logo. I know that Matt is very gracious and wants to give all the attention to the 2023 hosts, but we'll just share it anyway. So a quick introduction to Tagmarshal, if I may. We are an Atlanta-based business. I am not from Georgia, as you can hear. I'm born and raised German. I'm working on my southern accent. And we work with 500 golf courses. Very privileged to work with some of the very best, both private and daily fee. Pinehurst being one of them. There's also Whistling Straits, there's Pebble Beach, there's Valhalla, there's Hazeltine, Bobswell, really the best of the best. And what's amazing for us that we get to learn from these amazing operators. And also thanks to Matt for making himself available. But the majority of our clubs are really the $40, $50 green fee courses or the middle of the road private clubs, and they're all solving the same problems, and technology is here to help them. Let me jump into one of the things that that we're trying to quiz today. Matt, from your point of view, obviously you are trying to create the best possible player experience at Pinehurst. But if you had to distill things down to only 3 out of a list of, there's about 8: course design, course conditioning, clubhouse and amenities, pace and flow of play, playing partners, who's in my group, accessibility, tee time availability, cost and value, what would you say are the top 3 that matter most?
For me and us here at Pinehurst, I think course conditioning and pace and flow of play really run right there together with one another as the top 2. And then I think cost and value is going to be pretty high up there on the consumer's rating.
You might probably agree here in the audience that if you get your conditioning right, that's always critical. And if you look at your annual budget, your greenkeepers will let you know as well. We need more, always more. But then once you have a beautifully conditioned course, you need to present it well every day. And the key factor in how you do that is how do things flow out on the golf course, right? Let me see if I can actually get a little bit more of Matt onto the screen. So just give me 1 second to try and get both. Can we get Matt back onto this, Jeremy? And then I can maybe share the screen between both spaces so we at least have some visual of him. That's okay. How's that? And I'm also delighted that we have Darth Vader on the line with us. There's a slight rustling noise, which thankfully is not me. And if it was a year ago, it would have said, somebody's got COVID, let's run away. All right, I think we've got this mapped out now. That's great. Okay, so just to back you up here, Matt, 82% of respondents to quite a large-scale USGA survey have confirmed that course conditioning is key to them as players, and 74% of players say pace of play is key to them. And then we have also 84% of operators in a recent NGCOA USGA research paper said pace is a top 3 priority for them. So it's really something that it pays to give attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, everybody that's an operator understands how critical of a piece to the enjoyment of the game that pace and flow is. So I'm not surprised by those stats at all.
Okay, I'm not, we're creating an echo chamber of imagery here, it seems. So let's keep it simple. Okay, can you keep Matt on the screen for me? Right. There we go. So one of the things that we found really interesting in a research piece that we have assisted the USGA with, that was done by Professor Christina Skunova and Eric Bray, is they looked at, well, if you want to understand the player experience, what are those key factors that really matter to players? What are the key factors that might break somebody's experience, and what are the key factors that make somebody's experience? So what they found is that there are 1,000 touch points in the player experience, and they ranked those across perfect frustrator, which really gets people's blood boiling, all the way to perfect delighter. In this cycle of engagement, I'm thinking about playing a round. I arrive at the club, I play my round, exit, which is post-round, restaurant, and so on, and then extend, where the club reaches out. Did you enjoy the round? We'd love to have you back. So in the cycle, there are 1,000 touch points. So what we suggest is that the golf portion needs to be much bigger in terms of the attention that's given to it, because that drives the bus. Without golf, none of the other items happen. And also golf is where most of the time gets spent, right? So this is really what is key. Anything that happens out on the golf course is key from an experience point of view. And what they found is that there are certain items that really rank very low in terms of player frustration. And the worst one is corrective pace of play actions. So corrective pace of play actions is the lowest ranking score. And what that means is the marshal coming over and grunting, you're slow, get on with it, right? That's corrective, and players don't like it. The other portion to it is other people's speed. So they equally don't like if somebody's ahead of them slow, holding them up. So that's a conundrum, right? Like, don't tell me I'm slow, but anyone ahead of me can't be slow. On the other end of the scale, positive ranger etiquette comes out top. And obviously, and again, conditioning, green open speed, playing speed, those are all good things, right? So we have this conundrum. People don't want to be reprimanded, but they want things to be managed well. Again, Matt, from your side, how does this feature with how you do things? And I know we're going to get into the technology portion just now, but just from a conceptual point of view, how is that important, and how are you doing things at Pinehurst to do justice to that?
Yeah, I don't think anyone likes, when a ranger comes over to you and says, hurry up. So the positive approach, we certainly focus on, and we really start that, at the beginning of their golfing journey on the golf course by letting them know that our on-course personnel, which we call rangers, they're there to help, not hurt. And what we tend to do, if we do have to speak to a group, first and foremost, we always thank them for being here. Without them being here, we're not making any money. We're not maximizing our revenues, and so on and so forth. So we want to make sure that those consumers understand that we appreciate them being on property with us. And so, what we always do is again, we try to take that positive approach to where it's not hurry up, you need to pick up the pace, you're falling behind, catch up with the group in front of you. No, we let them know that, hey, we're here to help. And, folks, you might be a little bit behind, but, a couple pars and birdies on the next couple holes are going to get you caught up with the group in front of you. But what we're going to do is we're going to stay with you. We're going to spot golf balls, rake bunkers, move carts, move push carts if necessary. And we really get a nice reception from the guest when we end up staying with them, and do it in a very positive, polite, and respectful manner.
And that speaks to that etiquette portion, right? Where people really appreciate being assisted rather than being reprimanded. And I think it's great to hear how you carry that through so well. So the next question is expectation setting and the journey design at Pinehurst. What are some of the things that you do from a communication point of view? So you set the expectations, and maybe because obviously there's only one Pinehurst and you are exceptional, maybe for the audience, what would you say if you had maybe more modest resourcing? What would you focus on if you were running a $50 green fee course? What are the key aspects? So again, tell us how you do it at Pinehurst, and then if you were to distill it down to the top three things, what would you focus on at your $50 green fee course or your middle of the road member club?
Yeah, so ours is a it starts at the beginning with the reservationist, and when the individuals call, we do first and 10th tee on courses 2 and 8. So it's expectation setting, So for instance, on our double tee golf courses, we can't, tell our guests that they're going to play in, 3.5 hours if they're first off. So again, it's an expectation setting, making sure that they understand that, hey, the best you're going to possibly play on a double tee day is 4 hours and 10 minutes, but our expectation is 4.5. And then it moves into our pre-arrival communication. So 2 days prior to the individuals or golfing guest arriving on property, we send them an email, short email, so it's an easy read, but it's know before you go. And then we have LF in parentheses, so know before you golf. And we list out just a few items. We list out, which golf courses are cart path only, so which courses you should walk, what courses you should ride, and then also let them know that we have a push cart option as well. We list out our caddy fee structure, gratuity, all of that. But then we also mention pace of play in there. And again, it's that expectation setting. We list out that, our pace of play is 4.5 hours or less. And one thing that we always mention in this email as well is that if individuals aren't keeping up with the group in front of you, though rare, we will ask individuals to move to get back into position. So again, we're setting that expectation prior to arrival. And then once they get on property with us, it's a continuous flow. So when they check into the golf shop, we make sure that, our golf pro or registration attendant is relaying to the consumer or the player that they need to arrive to the tee 15 minutes prior to time. If they don't get to the tee on time, there's no way that you're going to be on pace. So that's a critical component to it. And then we continue on with that. And I'm sure we'll get into more of that journey, as we talk. But for the individuals that might not necessarily have, per se, the resources that we do here at Pinehurst, I think about every golf course in America now, has pre-arrival or a confirmation email. So once a group booked, whether it's Golf Now or through, just a, Easy Link, whatever it is that they're booking through, they typically get an email confirmation. So I think a small excerpt, in there, again, it doesn't have to be long, just, pace of play is very important to us at XYZ Club. Our pace of play is this, 4 hours or less, or 4.5 hours or less. So again, you're putting that, there in front of them prior to their arrival. And then when they arrive to the bag drop, I think pretty much most courses have bag drops. They end up, dropping off, and that's where the outside service attendant lets them know, hey, folks, make sure you arrive at the tee 15 minutes prior to your tee time, and kind of sets that expectation. Guys, pace of play is important to us. Hope you're going to have a great time out there, and with us having an appropriate pace of play, everybody will enjoy their day.
Yeah, I think the highlight here is just the continuity of the communication, right? Like through the booking, through the confirmation, arriving at the club, right through the starter, getting people off. It's just continuity of that message and setting of the expectation. And I think that's critical, because then there's no surprises, right? And that also then follows through with how you do things out on the course. And I think we're going to jump to sharing some of that. So let me try my screen share again and break everything. Okay, so on-course management, Pinehurst number 2. Matt, can you see my screen now?
I can.
Okay, great. So we can talk to that. So just very briefly from a Tagmarshal point of view. So yeah, we have a GPS-enabled on-course traffic management system that works both in the cart space with either a high-resolution GPS screen or a hit-on-away tracker, and obviously also works in the walking space. And we've got a lot of clubs that make use of that. Also, some clubs are hybrid mobility. They use carts and walkers, so they can really get everyone on a screen. What these units do is they send data to our system. The system analyzes the data and spits it out to the golf management team. And you can really think of it like a Google Maps or Waze of course management. So it's really intuitive, really simple. And quite frankly, you can never go back to paper maps and asking for directions once you have started using a system of that nature. In Matt's case at Pinehurst, they use, because it's walking for their main clubs courses, they use the these tags, and they've tied in their caddy structures to really be the carriers of that, and also the custodians of a lot of the pace work that they do. Matt, I'm going to jump forward to what things look like for you on a daily basis in the back end, and maybe you want to just quickly give us an outline of what you can see here out on the course, and talk a little bit to how you use this information.
Yeah. So the platform itself, has been just such a game changer for us. Previously we were operating, purely on line of sight, radio communication, Excel matrix to make sure that our groups were on time. Someone's watch might have been 2 minutes fast, 2 minutes slow, whatever. So, now with Tagmarshal, we have 360-degree coverage of our golf course, and we can see, what the pace of play is at a glance of a screen. We can have it in the golf shop. If our head pro is walking around and might not be available on a computer, he can bring it up on his cell phone or her cell phone. And then our starters can also see what the pace of play is on the golf course, so they can, again, set those expectations. If the golf course is running at a 4:45 pace, they're not going to tell the groups, hey, playing 4.5 hours or less. They're going to say, hey, folks, our goal is 4.5 hours or less. Looks like the golf course is running a little bit slower than that today, but we do have our on-course personnel that's going to assist you getting around the course. I believe, Bodo, I can't see the screen right now, but I believe you have the map up with where you can see tag 17. Is that the slide?
Yeah, sorry, let me just make sure that you do see it. Is that coming through now?
Yes. Okay. So this is a perfect example of how a quick glance we can see which group is out of position. So, the tag itself gets larger, it changes colors, identifying what particular stage in their round they are. So for instance, 17 is the largest icon that we see. So we know that that's the slowest group out there, and they're delaying the rest of the golf course. Luckily, our ranger is out there about to intervene with them. But, what we've come to find, too, throughout our studies and deep dives is that, for instance, every delayer, on our particular golf courses, every golf course is going to be a little bit different. But what we've come to see is that if one group is delaying, it ends up affecting 5 groups behind. So ultimately, you end up having, that's 24 players that you're affecting their rounds. So, the quicker we can make that intervention, the better the day is going to be for us, and the guest experience is going to be for all of our members and guests.
Yeah, and I think you're showing here that group number 17 clearly is falling out of position, and they have a tail of 2 that they're impacting already. So if you wait another 10-15 minutes, that is going to impact the 5 groups, and that is very difficult to recover. So in our world, it's always prevention is better than cure, right? So if you can get out there quickly, and have those interactions, and obviously our screen system automates a lot of that. That helps making sure people stay on track. I'm going to jump ahead, and just something that your team can see when they click on this group is who's in the group. So in your case, they would know what the caddies are at a club that's got a tee sheet that we've got lots of integrations with. You would see who's in that group. You know who the repeat players are, your members, what have you. And one of the key aspects as well is that you can see what is the trend of that group, and I would guess this is probably quite helpful to your team to really keep that eye in the sky, Matt. To see how are things developing, and to what extent do we want to intervene?
Without a doubt, you can see the progression of the group on the golf course. So, for instance, if that group falls behind, but you see, okay, it's just say 1 hole in their entire round, they probably had a lost ball. They probably hit one out of OB, or somebody had to go re-tee or what have you. So you can make educated guesses too of when you need to intervene based upon their progression per hole as well. So that information definitely is beneficial, when analyzing and seeing, okay, which group I need to go, speak to, and how quickly I need to respond to that particular group.
Yeah, fantastic. You can see that a lot of the groups on Pinehurst here are nicely on pace, so that none you need to worry about. And you can already picture, if you had a line of sight based system, your ranger or course ambassador out there, they would need to scan and try and make sense of all of these things. And it's near impossible to actually do that, because you might have a group that's playing a bit quickly, pushing in the group in front of them. Now that gap is closing up. Why, right? So for you to ascertain that based on some level of pace grid is really difficult. And then having a conversation is even more difficult, right? Because players are never slow. You know that, and that's also one of the things, Matt, we're talking about etiquette, right? So your team would never go out and granted somebody, hey, you're slow, get on with it. Maybe just a reminder about some of the verbiage that you use to help keep those interactions constructive and of the service nature.
Yeah, again, we always start off by thanking the groups for being out there, and and if again, if it's the second, third time we're intervening, it's going to be a little bit different. But again, it's always very courteous, it's always very positive, and try to make sure that they're understanding that we're there to help them, and we're there to make sure the experience for them is good as well as the rest of the golf course. So again, it's just being polite, being respectful, and going out and trying to help their pace of play without just telling them to hurry up.
Okay, so we have spoken through. Oh, that's a beautiful photo. Which course is that, Matt? Can you see it?
That's going from the second green of course 4 all the way to the fifth fairway of course 4.
I know exactly why you're not at the PGA show right now. So we've spoken about the starter, that role, welcome expectation setting, making sure that your timings, especially the start time, is adhered to. And one of the things that's very obvious, if you're running a 10-minute interval and you're sending out a group 2 minutes late and the next group out 1 minute too soon, then you're reducing that to 7 minutes, and that's going to cause problems. So the more consistency you can have in that, all of these little variables matter. Yeah, from a data point of view, here's an example, and I know, Matt, that's something that you are particularly interested in and work a lot with. What are some of the sort of data points that you look at when you dig into those analytics? And obviously we're going to go into the special strategies that you're running in just a minute, but just as a baseline, how do you make sure that your performance stays on track and you keep improving?
So that's one thing that we really enjoy about Tagmarshal is the analytics and the data that it produces. It gives us a lot of insight on how to make educated decisions on how we need to operate our golf course, and then also how we want to make sure that guest experience is exceptional. So, for instance, for us, we do analysis between Monday through Thursday and Friday through Sunday to see what was the difference there. Pretty staggering number would be for instance, on course 4. During the springtime, Monday through Thursday was 7 minutes quicker than Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then in the fall, it was even bigger. It was it was a 12-minute difference. So it's 12 minutes faster on Monday through Thursday than Friday through Saturday. Yes, okay, we're a resort, so we're busy every single day, but that gives us a little bit more insight. Okay, where do we need our resources? And also, how do we, set the golf course up to make sure that, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're running it in a clean, a little bit easier fashion than we might, during the weekday. But it also gives us additional insight to, the behavior of the consumer. So for instance, on the weekday, individuals have other places to be. They might have phone calls to make in the afternoon. They're probably not drinking as much. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're leisure. They don't have really anywhere to be. They're probably having 1 or 2 more beers than they might normally have, sometimes 3 or 4. And so they're just taking their time. So, that again gives us the understanding that we do need those resources, additional resources, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then also, what can we do from a course setup standpoint to make sure that we're giving us the best opportunity to have an acceptable pace of play over those days that we can actually see the biggest difference of run times.
Fantastic. I think one of the things that we've learned is that the really exceptional performance happens when you do the basics really well first. Do the basics well first, and then you look for incremental improvements. And it may be small changes, small adjustments, small tweaks on the number of variables. But if you think about it over time, 1% improvement every week over a 30-week season, you're 30% better, right? And I think that is some of the culture that Matt and the team are cultivating. Let me just try and break things again with my screen share. This is great fun. And get back to our setup. So maybe just briefly, what we can see here is a single day at Pinehurst, every single tee times performance end of day. So you can see the first few versus the goal time of 4:30 came in really nicely. Then the first group here that's got this orange click through on it started to get a bit out of position. And what it means that if these little envelopes are there, the team had an interaction, right? So they caught this group, got them back on track, and the group that was delayed behind them was hardly impacted. And what you can see at the bottom right is a breakdown of how many of the groups were quicker than goal time or on goal time or within 10 minutes. And this is a 91% success rate, which is really a good day at the office. You get the weather context, and you can see how's the day's run time across the day segmented. And that is something that's really important to look at over time, because very often a golf course can be played quickly, 3 hours 30, very possible for many players. How can we use that early in the day with a bit more of a dynamic goal time approach so that we can start the day off quickly, not just first run out, but the first few out, and really impact the later groups in there by staggering that goal time up and really managing in line with what's optimal. One of the things that's also important, and Matt is going to talk to, we're going to talk to the whole run times just now, and how you're using setups to really tweak that. So that's part of your advanced strategies, I guess, at Pinehurst. But before we go there, tell us a little bit about what you call impact zones in terms of your on-course interactions and the on-course interactions and how you manage things, and also maybe how that might be a solution for other course operators out there in terms of their consideration, how they place resources out on the course.
Yeah, so not everyone has the resources available that we have from a staffing standpoint, and I certainly get that, and that's where I think the Tagmarshal reporting can really help with that and help you define what your impact zones are. And for instance, you'll be able to stagger your scheduling of your on-course personnel based upon those particular impact zones. For us, on course 2, we run first and 10th tee, so really our impact zones are all day long. And but we've found early in the round, if you hit individuals early in the round with a pleasantry, thanks for being here, you guys are doing a great job, you folks are doing a great job on pace of play, we really get that buy-in from those players as well. So if we do have to go and ask them to pick up the pace of play or help them pick up the pace of play, they're very receptive to it. But again, we find multiple interactions throughout the golf course really helps out. But how we've been able to define those impact zones is based upon our run times per hole to see where that delay is and where we should really station individuals. And again, all that can be derived from the analytics that is pulled from the hub. We also use the hole analysis for how we set up the golf course. Know that it's trial and error too. I mean, there's going to be things that you're going to try on your golf course that are not going to work, that might work for a sister golf course, if you will. So I would encourage everyone not to be hesitant to try something. If it doesn't work, try something else.
Yeah, and I think that is a fantastic approach, right? And that's what keeps you and your team also ahead of the curve, because you're willing to try things and do things differently. But I think one of the underlying tools that you need if you're trying things, you need data, because otherwise you're just running on perception and on a hope. But if you have data, that's when you can really look at what are the things that matter and how does it impact, run data through it. Okay, we're improving, this is getting better, and then set new benchmarks constantly. I know that you have tied in your greenkeeping team quite extensively, and you're also working really well with the USGA that have, you mentioned earlier, an on-site office with you. Let's look at some of the deeper strategies that you started deploying around the green speeds and how that impacts flow on the course. I'm just going to skip through to that. Yeah, maybe just share a little bit about that, if you will.
Yeah. So this was probably one of my most fun data deep dives, if you will, for 2022. And, big thanks to, our superintendent on course 2, John Jeffries, and the USGA with their Deacon platform. But what we wanted to do is figure out what the optimal speed was for the greens to keep the integrity of the championship golf course while maintaining an appropriate pace of play. And so the USGA had done studies about this, and they said for every 1 foot that you increase the speed on the golf course, you're increasing the pace of play by 7 minutes. With all of our data collection and analyzation and everything, what we found was on course 2, for every foot that we increased it, it was about 4.5 to 5 minutes of increased time. So every golf course is going to be a little bit different. But with the irony of it is, if you look at our particular graph here, you can see when it's a 10, it's 434 is our pace. And when it's an 11, it's a 440 pace. So 6 minutes. So pretty close to that 7-minute mark that they had captured in their overall data. But for us, when we're looking at this, we're saying, okay, what's the optimal green speed to make sure that the integrity of the golf course is still presented at a US Open caliber level, but also how are we going to make sure that we're achieving the best pace of play? And it's clearly defined in this particular graph. I mean, you can see right there at that 10.5, that's our sweet spot. That's where the greens are rolling, at a nice speed, but we're not getting over a 437 pace. So that's really, I think, was one of the most fun things for me, this past year when we were, really deep diving into this and analyzing it over a long period of time and understanding, okay, what is our optimal green speed on Pinehurst number 2? And for our regular play, it's a 10.5.
That's amazing insight, and thanks for sharing that. Of course, I know people are thinking, where am I going to find the time to do this sort of stuff at my course? I'm so busy, but that's where, it's helpful to just have data fed to you and presented to you, data of every single second of every day out on your course automatically aggregated, and then you can start looking at it. And then what's great with Matt and his teams, they work so well with our customer success guys and with really quite straightforward requests. Can you give us data on this? Can you give us data on that? And then our team will go and sit down and make it available, and it helps the overall benchmark and an improvement. But maybe just also to commend you that over time, and this is really 2021, 2022 performance, because you're tweaking those variables and you're putting all this effort in. Your mean round time has come down by 11 minutes, and your on pace and within 10 minutes has gone up by 41%. And this is already the experience of Pinehurst is exceptional, right? But this is where you're tweaking, make things even better. Of course, you're not doing this all for fun, right? Like you can track the impact that this has on your guest satisfaction. Tell us a little bit how you do that and what the impact is, and why your leadership has put such an effort on really putting these processes and resources in place.
Yeah, I think it goes back to one of the first slides that we went over is what is the player, what is the consumer expecting, what is the consumer saying, and they're saying they want a positive pace of play or flow on the golf course. That and course conditionings are their top two. And so, to make sure that, we're keeping our eye on the ball and we're having a strong initiative for pace of play, it has to start from the top down. So, we all have to be bought in. We all have to be singing the same song, if you will. And so for us, it's making sure that our on-course personnel knows that we have their back and we're invested in this as well, really goes a long way. Some of the things that we've done, as far as, analyzing and looking at, run times, we look at the fastest run time, look at the average run time, but really our KPI is our slowest run time. And again, that goes back to every slow group affects 5 behind them. And so, if we can reduce our slowest run time by a few minutes, then we're doing our job and we're getting better. And it's a direct correlation with our guest satisfaction. So here at the resort, we run off of NPS, Net Promoter Score. And in 2021 comparative to 2022, in 2022, course 2 got 20 points better from a NPS, and course 4 got 12 points better. From an NPS standpoint, that's really unheard of. You might see, a deviation between, 3, 4, 5, and that's a large, jump. But 20 points and 12 points, it's something that we are very proud of. But it didn't come easy. It came with a lot of hard work and a lot of effort put into it. But we also, have the resources available, such as the Tagmarshal, the Deacon platform, to help us achieve our goals.
Yeah, I think it certainly pays, but it's important to understand the value to the business, right? Because you are creating exceptional experiences. What do people do? They come home from their trip to Pinehurst and they rave about it to their friends, and they want to come back next year. And everyone knows this is what I'm going to get at Pinehurst. And we have other resorts that we work with, and one of the key complaints or negative Net Promoter Score impact is the pace and the flow, because conditioning is always going to be exceptional. So that's the one thing that if you get that right, it really changes the game from a willingness to return and repeat play. And it's the same in the daily fee space. If we do those things right, people want to come back next week. Obviously, I can't play every week at Pinehurst, but in the daily fee space, it's the same from an impact point of view. And it really pays to give that a lot of attention. And it just over time, it becomes second nature to a club, right? These processes run. This is how we hold ourselves accountable. This is how we communicate our results, especially in a private club space. Really exciting what happens once you start communicating your results. Players will ask you, how are we doing this week? Are we getting better? We are faster than in course down the road, aren't we, right? And they're proud of it, and this culture develops. I mean, that really runs deep and within both your team, but also your players over time. Let me jump to one other slide there, Matt, and then we're almost at the end and hope have some time for some Q&As as well. Share. So one of the things that our team have done is we've done some deep data and benchmarking platform work with Pinehurst over and above what our system would regularly do. And that's super exciting for us because we get to help innovate. Matt, from your personal goals into some of the data sets that you're going to look into in the next couple of years, what are some of the things that you're trying to achieve with your team at Pinehurst, and also obviously working with the USGA and so forth?
Well, for us, it's to, embark our data and put it into a, all one ecosystem, if you will. So, I think, this day and age, we have all the technology available to us. And the tough part is to getting it all in one space and getting it all to talk to one another. So, but they didn't pay me to do this, by any means. But to be able to have a partner like Tagmarshal that is willing and able to, interface and connect with, other platforms, it only helps us to understand. So to understand our operation better and how we can improve it, because we utilize, John Deere's, platform, we utilize the USGA's platform and Tagmarshal. So for us, ultimately, we want to be able to get everything all under one umbrella that speaks to one another so that we can, again, then analyze that data just as we did with the green speed. So, it might be fairway height cut, the firmness of the fairway, how much does that play into pace of play, as far as, cart path only versus, walking only, which, that study's out there. But, being able to see the data and correlate it and be able to make decisions in your operation based upon that data that you've collected, I think is just so important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, that's where your and our passions meet head on. So using data to really get that moment of truth and benchmark and keep looking for those incremental improvement opportunities is really the future. Yeah, very excited also that you are so willing to share with others in the industry, and you don't just keep your magic sauce to yourself. And that's credit to you and the team. And I do believe it really runs deep in just a willingness to work together within the industry and uplift everybody. So thanks for sharing your insight. And I'm proud to say that I've kept us, and you have kept me also on pace to do this 45-minute session. What I would like to do is just see if there's any questions for Matt that we'll try and answer as best we can. Any questions other than can I have a tea time at Pinehurst allowed? Here's a question. Yes.
Is it concerning any tee box that players play?
Yeah.
What's the tee box?
Is there a correlation? Okay, I think, Matt, the question is, when you're looking at the green speed versus pace, are you analyzing what tee boxes do players play off? Are they appropriate? And how do those selections impact the pace? Because I know my friends, when they come to Pinehurst, they want to really challenge themselves, even though the course already is a challenge. So how do you manage that expectation the player has to, I'm playing this championship course, I want to go as far back as I can? How do you manage that and keep things appropriate so that the players can actually be successful and don't crumble and destroy your day?
So we have a golf professional on the first tee of courses 2 and 4, and we speak to the group, knowledgeably and respectfully, and let them know that, hey, look, if you want to go play the blue tees, you're more than welcome to, but our pace of play is this, and if you do fall behind, we will ask you to move and get into position. With that being said, we always encourage these individuals to play, say the white tees, and some of our starters really pride themselves on getting the majority of our folks to play the white tees. And how we do that is folks, do you want to have a hybrid or long iron into all of these Donald Ross turtleback greens, or would you like to have a 7-iron and a low iron into these greens and really enjoy your time out there? So we try to explain it in a reasonable fashion. And we actually have a very good conversion rate on having the majority of our folks play the white tees. Now, we do keep data on all that information, and that's a task that Bodo and his team are a portal that they're building out for us to where we can input that into Tagmarshal to, again, have all that data sourced in one area. Currently, we just keep stats on it, and we input that into a spreadsheet.
Okay, great question. Any other questions? Yeah.
Curious, Matt could talk about the process Pinehurst went through to bring in the Tagmarshal tool. Is that like a year-long RFP process, or just kind of one-off demos with various stakeholders? How long that took, the decision-making process?
Okay, so the question is, how easy or hard was it to get Tagmarshal onboarded with your team? Is it something that you got going with quite quickly, and what was the process like? I know it's a few years back. Do you still remember? Because it's second nation.
That's a wonderful question. And what we did is, this was probably back in 2017. Tagmarshal was brand new on the scene, and so for us, I put together a proposal for our executive team and let them know what the benefits of Tagmarshal was going to be for us, and that this is the new standard, if you will, in golf technology or on course, optimization and pace of play. So, I felt, personally that if we did not do that, we were going to start to fall behind. And I placed it in that manner that there's some golf courses and that utilize Tagmarshal for optimization and to increase, the more positive pace of play they have, the more rounds they're going to be able to get. We use it more from a guest satisfaction standpoint, and that's really kind of the angle that I approached it. So I think there's multiple angles that you can approach, how you want to bring it to your board or bring it to your exec committee. And but list it out, and it is, in my opinion, it is an industry standard that if you're not doing it and you're not collecting that information and if you're not looking at the golf course from 360-degree coverage, then you're not having all the tools to be successful.
Maybe from our side, we have a customer success team and an online learning portal. So literally 1 hour in little bitty video clips will get anyone on your team onboarded so they can get going. And it's normally a 1-week calibration process, and then you're out the gate. And the nice thing is that if you're not used to having this level of line of sight, the impact that you have very quickly is actually tremendous. And then within 30 to 60 days, you're then starting to dial into the data, and you become a bit more familiar. And we have amazing success stories even within the first 3 to 6 months, the first season. And it's like Matt said, like once you're dialing into this and once you have this available, you will ask yourself, how did you ever go without it, right? So it's quite a simple process, and it's also, we do things appropriately because we know not everyone is a scientist genius like Matt. I'm joking, Matt, but we have clubs where there's managers that are so busy. It's like, make this easy for me. What are the 3 things that we need? I've got half an hour, let's go, right? And then we get started, and once they realize this is starting to save me 3 to 5 hours a week, okay, let's invest an hour so I can get to the next level, right? And it's really, it's also, again, we're very, very grateful to people like Matt that come on a stage with us and share some of these stories. And I'll tell you how many people have stumbled into a session like this, starting to use the system, and then 2 years later, it's like, well, now they're on a panel with us, right, telling their story. So that's where this thing goes in a 360, and we're really here to help the industry where we can, and also create a platform for people to share best practices. And that goes all back into our education material too. So that's the ambition that we have. Okay, one more question. I know that we are on end of round. 19th hole coming up. Okay, no more questions. So thank you very much. Thank you, Matt. That was fantastic. Really appreciate your insight, and that you had a little bit of a PGA show impact here. Thank you for joining our session, everyone. Enjoy yourselves. Quick, if you want to come to our booth and learn a bit more and talk to some of people, meet some of our people, what's the number? 3425. Yeah, come and see us next to PGA Magazine, just next door to Club Car. We'd love to just share and also learn a bit more about what you're trying to do. Matt, thank you so much. All the best to Pinehurst, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks.
And,
enjoy your show.
Thank you. Matt, I'm going to jump off.
Sounds great. Thanks, Bodo.